Hello, welcome back to the Korea Journal Daily's headlines. I'm Jim Bowie. Today, once again, we're looking at 손흥민. Now, of course, he's still having a great year. Just yesterday, the Korea Journal Daily ran with the headline, "Is Son in the running for EPL Player of the Year?" With only a few months remaining in the 2018-19 English Premier League season, Sonhung-min of Tottenham Hotspur could be in the running for one of the league's biggest honours, the Player of the Year award. Now that story was also covered in foreign media as well as Korean media, but there are a little bit more interesting stories I wanted to look at today. The story that got me interested in this, sort of a potential darker side to coverage of Sonhung-min, comes from Football 365, which is a footballing blog in the UK. Stop treating Son like a starstruck camera-wielder. Now this is actually a publication of a letter written by a Football 365 reader, which argues that the way that foreign media covers Son is inherently slightly racist or slightly stereotyping. I'll read you the letter. The continuous reference to his smiling face and happy demeanour. While I don't disagree that the guy has a very positive attitude to his job, I don't think it is unique to him, and I don't think a Caucasian guy would receive the same commentary in the same way. For all there is a big residual emphasis in parts of Asia about presentation, sometimes to the detriment of content or quality, this guy is way beyond that. He is international, if not actually world class, but the coverage of him has conformed to a caricature of the obsequious Asian that is just happy to be there. This letter goes on and on to talk about how stories about Sonhung-min in English media always talk about how happy he is, how smiley he is. But you don't see that for other players. There are plenty of other players who have reasons to be happy, reasons to celebrate. The story goes on to talk about Mo Salah, but they don't mention those things. They only mention it with Sonhung-min, and this writer believes that in doing so, they are conforming to an old stereotype that they have in the UK of the smiling Asian tourist with a selfie stick who's just so happy to be everywhere and so cheerful. And that is a stereotype that can be seen as slightly offensive. Whether you agree with this guy's interpretation or not is entirely up to you, but there is an article here that suggests the same thing. I mean, this is evidence. This is from the Daily Telegraph. A Valentine to Sonhung-min, the Tottenham forward who radiates joy. Gaze upon the bliss of Tottenham Sonhung-min whenever he scores a goal, the irrepressible smile of a player whose connection with the spontaneous joy felt as a child has not been jaded. Again, this is written in an incredibly positive way, and it's great news that they see Sonhung-min as this sort of shining light of positivity, but if you believe this Football 365 article's argument, that is a little bit strange because they don't write about other players like that. They're not writing with how brilliant a player he is at the top, they're writing with how happy he is, which is a little bit more unusual. Whether you think there's a sinister side to that or not is entirely up to you. Although there is another article here from Eurosport. Heung-min Son has arrived as a Spurs superstar, so where are the wider plaudits? Plaudits are congratulatory remarks, a celebration of his ability. This article is saying Sonhung-min is undoubtedly one of the best players in the EPL right now, but why isn't he held up there with some of the all-time greats? And at the end of the story, there is this paragraph. Perhaps it is the clean-cut attitude that puts some off. Perhaps it's how nice he is. Or perhaps it is something slightly more sinister, a deep-rooted mentality within football that Asian players are support stars at best, rather than the true Galacticos. Galacticos are named for a sort of a superstar Real Madrid player, but it's now used for all superstars. So the Eurosport argument is that Sonhung-min is not covered in the same way as other players because there's some sort of inherent opinion that Asian players are support stars at best. Obviously, we know that's not true, and Sonhung-min has proven that time and time again in recent weeks. But is it possible that that's the reason why the coverage of him is different? That's entirely up to you, but that's what some of the stories in the foreign press are saying today. We'll be back next week with more stories about Korean athletes, Korean teams, and Korean coaches around the world. Thank you.